Do you remember a time when you were really uncomfortable? Like, I mean, really uncomfortable. A couple years back, I was at a youth event, and I was the youth event. How they had it set up is you brought a tent and you just pitched it in the middle of the field, and it was for the May long weekend, which should be a pretty good weekend. This weekend, however, it snowed. It snowed on the May long weekend, and there I am in a tent with a sleeping bag with snow piling up on the tent, and I was frigid. I mean, I was the coldest I've ever been. I was so uncomfortable, and I just remember thinking to myself as I'm on the sleeping bag on the ground with snow, wind howling, just freezing to death. I just thought to myself, you know what? I have a warm bed somewhere that I could go to, that I could sleep in. I was so uncomfortable. The word comfort is one that we use a lot today. I looked up some of the usages of the word. Some of the more popular ones was, comfort food, or the creature comforts, or comfort zone, or too close for comfort, or how about this one, cold comfort. There's another one called comfort women, but I don't know what that means, and I don't want to think about what it could mean. But the idea of comfort is that it just means to be at ease, to be okay with what's going on. And the word uncomfortable is a word that we hate, right? One of the things that irritates us more than anything is being uncomfortable. And I remember that weekend when I was in the tent, freezing to death. I was very uncomfortable. Right now, in what's going on in the world, we are very uncomfortable. Our safety zones are very much being dismantled. We are made very uncomfortable right now, and I think there's a lesson in here somewhere. It's interesting is in the times of our most discomfort, or being uncomfortable, is the times that we tend to grow and develop. Um, it's no surprise that in our times of our lives when things are falling apart, loss of relationship, loss of finance, loss of job, loss of health, whatever it would be, it's these times that we tend to draw close to God. Now, I don't know if you've ever correlated that or thought to yourself, well, why is that? Well, there's a good reason for that. And the reason for that is because when we're moved outside of our comfort zones, we realize that control is an illusion. And when control is an illusion, then we ask ourselves, well, what do I control? And sometimes the hard answer is a lot less than I thought I controlled. And being uncomfortable reminds us of that lack of control. And I think right now the thing that people feel the most is a loss of control. We used to know how to keep ourselves healthy. We used to know how the world worked, but now with COVID-19, we don't know how the world works, and we are very uncomfortable. But as I said before, is at the end of our comfort zones, at the end of the things that makes us comfortable, there is a learning experience that happens. When we face tragedy, when we face suffering, we grow or we fall apart. There's really kind of two options that can be given to us. And so right now, I've been thinking about all the things that make me uncomfortable, and especially as a pastor right now, as a church. Like, I don't have, I can't actually meet with people. I can't actually speak to people face to face now. It's via this video screen, or it's by a video screen in the mornings on Sunday mornings when we do our live stream. And it's like I can't actually have that. And I think it's so interesting that I'm being made uncomfortable, but in my discomfort, I'm also learning to kind of grow as well too. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I may have done things this way, or I may have thought things this way, but there actually might be a lesson in here for me to grow as well too. And I think the world is experiencing that right now. We have been moved outside of our comfort zone, and we are actually realizing a lot of harsh truths about ourselves. And one of those harsh truths might be that we are not as strong or in control as we thought we were. And then at the end of that, at the beginning or the end of that realization, is a realization that maybe I need someone or something to make me feel safe again, to make me feel in control. And I don't know if we can ever feel in control again, but I think I want to learn about what it means to release control and have a faith that's not based upon outcome. At Uptown Community Church, we talk about this concept of outcome-based faith. Outcome-based faith tends to rear its ugly head with prayer, right? We pray something and we expect God to answer. And what's interesting is that when God doesn't answer or doesn't answer the way we expect, then we have this crisis of faith. I used to make a joke at UCC, and I still make a joke because, it's a funny joke. Well, I think it's funny. No one else does, but maybe I'm the only one. But I always say to people, I always run into Eustas. And you know what a Eusta is, right? I used to go to church. I used to believe in God. And what's interesting is when you talk to these individuals, the stories they kind of unpack for us unpack for me is not about coming to some sort of theological realization that God doesn't exist or, the ontological belief, like all these things, these high-minded philosophical concepts. That's not why people tend to leave faith. They leave faith because they are given this crisis point moment and they reach out to God, and God doesn't quite answer or act the way we think he does. And because of that, we lose trust, we lose faith, and then we just kind of give up and we wander away. That's the I used to believe. And I think with the loss of control and being uncomfortable, there's a tendency or a temptation to say, well, why is God allowing this? Why did God create COVID-19, which he didn't? But why is all this pain and suffering in the world? And the answer is always going to be, is because we live in a fallen and broken world. If you've ever had the opportunity to go to any of the great art museums, if you've ever had a chance to go to these places where some of these works of art that you've only seen on television or in textbooks are kept, you see them face to face and you realize that maybe they're not quite as grand or as big as you thought, but at least you're seeing it, right? I remember I was in Chicago and I went to the Art Institute of Chicago and they had some of Picasso's Blue Period paintings. And I'm a big fan of painters and paintings, and seeing a Picasso up front was like, wow, that was amazing. Like to see some of Picasso's paintings like live was just like, it was kind of astounding for me. It was a profound experience for me. But what would be like if I came to Chicago and I went to see these Picasso paintings, but the day before I got there, somebody had come along and had graffitied these paintings or had cut them up or had done something. And so the next day I walk in and I look at these paintings and think to myself, wow, that's very underwhelming. It's not what I thought it was going to be. But someone can say to me, oh, wait. The day before, somebody had come in and had ruined these masterpieces, ruined this artwork. And what you're looking at is not what the artist intended. And I feel like that's kind of how we feel about the world right now. When we look at the world, we see natural tragedies and of course, our heart breaks at them. But we look at this world and we say, well, why could God do this? Or why did God allow that? And as Christians, we get to say to the world, this is not what God intended. This is not what the Creator wanted. Instead, we are left with a world that's broken and shattered, that is infected and affected by sin. And so it's in these times of uncomfortable or the times of discomfort that we are confronted with the illusions of control and the illusions of safety. And in these moments are opportunities to have our faith be placed upon something greater than ourselves, greater than our sense of control, greater than our ability to manipulate the outcomes of this world. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians, he writes this letter to the church at Ephesus. And just so you know, Ephesians chapter 4 is, in my opinion, one of the great chapters of the Bible. Like, if you're ever going to study one chapter, Ephesians 4, James 1, a couple other ones, Hebrews chapter 4. Like, these are incredible chapters, just meaty chapters, right? Well, in the letter to Ephesus, Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 5, and he makes this incredible statement. He's talking to the church, and he says this statement. He says, "Awake, O sleeper, and rise from the dead." Now, I think it's so interesting that Paul takes this idea of sleep and death and uses them together. And I wonder if I could paraphrase that statement and I can say this: awake, you who are comfortable, and arise from your comfort zones to see what God actually wants. It's such a cliche, and I'm so sorry, but I saw this at a poster at a gym one time where the person said, or the poster said, your best body lies outside of your comfort zones, or your achievements or your goals lies outside of outside of your comfort zones. It's a bit of a cliche, probably makes a good T-shirt, but I think there actually might be something true in that. That in these times of discomfort, God might be waiting on the other side of our comfort zone saying, come follow me. It's no wonder that when Jesus was talking to his disciples, his followers, or even the crowd of people listening to him, he says to them, you know what? Take up your cross and follow me. And I always think to myself, if I was in the crowd and somebody would say something so audacious, so incredible, like so stupid, to say to a group of people, hey, this thing that's an execution device with Romans, you should take that and you should walk around with it. I'd be thinking to myself in the crowd, you first, Jesus. You first, right? Like, before you tell me to pick up my cross, before I should pick up my cross, you should do it first. And I wonder if Jesus in the back of his mind is kind of chuckling to himself, because he thinks to himself, yeah, the crowd's thinking me first, and it will be me first. I will do that. I will show you that I will take up my cross. And so as I'm asking to you now, prophetically, I will do that as well. And so in this time of unease, of discomfort, of being uncomfortable, God waits. He's calling us to something profound, something beautiful, and he's just asking us to trust him in this. And you know what's the great thing too about the world being infected and affected by sin? Well, God has not left the world without himself. He's left us, his believers, those who call themselves disciples of Jesus. He's left us all around the world to reach out in love and kindness and graciousness and mercy and help and serving one another, right? All these great statements. This is our mandate, our mission, so that when we experience the discomfort of tragedy, when we experience the discomfort of this world, we get to remind people there's a God who loves, and there's a God who cares. And the world that we live in right now, it's not what he intended. And it's not going to be forever, but it is for now. And I can't maybe erase what has happened. I can't maybe change what has happened. But maybe I can be there to walk through with you in this time of discomfort. Awake, O sleeper, and rise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. The NLT says it. Christ will give you light. You know what? Let's be lights in dark times. COVID-19 is here. We don't know how long it's going to last, but it will be gone eventually. And in that time, we get to emerge from our quarantined homes and experience a reunion of people, of communities coming back together again. But in this time right now, we can be lights. Remember, we've been talking about this with some spiritual disciplines. Text people, see how they're doing, call them, FaceTime them, video conference them, see people need help, all these great things, right? This is how we awaken. This is how we move past our comfort zones to see what God wants for us. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks if you made it to this point in the video. Be blessed. And remember, we're isolated, but we're not alone. Take care. Blessings.